The first time I wish to save a document in a document library from, for example, Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, some other application, I need to be able to get to this document library. This can be very simple or very complex. I'm going to start with the most complex way you'll ever have to save a document, because if you understand how this works, then you'll always be able to save documents in SharePoint libraries as long as you have permission to save in those libraries. SharePoint and all of its libraries and lists lives on the World Wide Web. So each document and each library, each list app, each page has its own distinct URL. This is the URL for our document library. I'm looking at my documents. If I right-click on Documents, I can copy the shortcut to go to Documents, because remember, this is a shortcut too. And if I simply hover over my document shortcut, I'll see that very long URL at the bottom of the screen. The initial part of the URL is indicating location. The last part of the URL is telling us how this library is being displayed. Specifically, the part at the end of the URL, everything after the name of the library, which is Shared Documents, all the way out to the end, I don't need to have. This is simply indicating that the All Items view is being used, that it's a Shared Documents library, and so on. If I then begin at the beginning and select all the way to the slash at the end of Shared Documents, the name of the library, this is the location of this library. I can select this, Control-C or right-click in it to copy, and now I have the location of this document library. Let's now go to Microsoft Word. I'm in the middle of creating a document here using one of the free templates from Microsoft. I'd like to save this document in the library I was just in. Let's go to File and Save. Here I have my OneDrive, I have my sites on the Landon Hotel, and I want to show you again the most difficult way, the most complex way to save this. I'm going to choose Browse, and I'm going to paste in the URL that I copied out of the address bar and press Enter. And it will take me directly to that library. If I don't have permission to that library, this will return an error. If this library doesn't exist or I didn't copy the URL correctly, it will give me an error. But notice that it navigated me to that precise location, and even though I had pasted over the name that was being given to this document, after it arrived, it knows to populate that name again. There's my location, press Enter, there's the name, Weekly Assignments. I can click Save, and I'm saving this document in that SharePoint library just like that. Let's return to the library and see this document. If I refresh, there it is, Weekly Assignments. That's the hardest way to save a file, to choose the location of the library. Let me show you the easiest way to save a file. When we open a document from a library in SharePoint and then edit it in Word, if I go to File and choose Save As, notice that the current location of that document is right here. Not only is it listed there, it's also listed under Today. And the difference between the current folder and Today is that I can pin that item to my list. So I've just pinned that Shared Documents library to my list here in Microsoft Word. What does that mean? Well, let's close this document. We don't need it. Let's even close this document that's already been saved. Let's simply create a new sample document. Often when I create samples, I'll simply name them Delete Me so I remember to delete them. And let's save this. Notice that when I choose Sites under Landon Hotel, that document library is on my pinned list right here. I can choose it, click Save, and automatically save to that document library. If I close this and we return to SharePoint, here we are again, and there's my Delete Me file. Perfect. Worst case scenario, copy the portion of the URL up to the end of the name of the library. In this case, Shared Documents. Copy that and use it in the common dialog You can use it in an open dialog as well to navigate to a particular location in the World Wide Web, in this case, my document library from this team site. Or, once you've opened a document, and better yet, in my point of view, while it's open in Word, Excel, and so on, you can easily pin that particular library to Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. Before we conclude the topic of saving files, there is one change in SharePoint that's worth noting, and that is the ability to use some characters and file names that have not previously been allowed. For example, you can use the ampersand character and the tilde character within a file name. You can use a globally unique ID, or GUID, in a file name. You can start a file name with leading periods. You can include braces in a file name. And finally, you can use longer file names. You can create file names that are longer than 128 characters. All of these changes are new. You still are not allowed to use the reserved character % or the hash or pound sign, because both of those have specific meanings in a URL. However, if you've ever needed to go change file names because Windows allows ampersands and URLs don't, you'll appreciate that this provides more consistency between file names inside and outside of SharePoint.